Modi ore te whānau, what's going on? Welcome back to the 99Dreams podcast. Today we're at a different setup and we've got a live guest right next to me. This is interesting. This is the first time this has ever happened that we've been able to run a setup like this. Took us a little bit, but I'm really excited about this one, whānau. This is going to be so much fun. I get to introduce to you my wonderful cousin who's been on a hell of a journey so far. But yeah, without further ado, let me introduce to you guys Haoro. What up, my cuz?
Kia ora, cousin. Kia ora, Rāori.
Before we even get started, can you just give us a bit of a Kōwai Norway, who you are and where you're from?
Okay, ka pai. Ka timata pēnei, ne? Tōku te I e korua taranaki au weke mai ai te wai orongo mai wai rere rā ki tai ua te moana tā poko poko moi mai rā e o kutu puna ki ua ki ataka tū ki pūni o te tauaro ki a rau o toko pauna te tūpuna ko puna te aro a te tari o te ora e ara kōi ara te nei ko ngā maanga a tairi puta ki te ao e. Ara ko Haoro ki taihua tāne te aniwaniwa tēnei. E mihi atu ana ki a koe o tira, e mihi atu ana ki te kaupapa I wainga nui a tātou.
I know. You guys, well, some of you guys that know this fella, that do watch the show on a regular, this is going to be an exciting episode. So, cuz, let's dive into it. Do you know much about the podcast?
In all honesty, nah, not too much.
You won't be the only one, my cuz. You're not the only one.
Okay.
No, it's all good. So, pretty chill here. It's just roll with it, have some fun, and answer a few questions along the way. But I left one of my major components at home, so we're just going to have to write it down on a piece of paper. But we'll put it in the box for him when we get to that part of the segment. But what are you up to these days, my cuz? What are you doing?
Well, at the moment, I've just come off the back of a pretty full-on year, 2022. It was a big year. I set a lot of goals for art and creating and working inside schools and working with tamariki. So last year I attempted 3 murals with 3 different schools, and we completed them all, with the largest being 35 metres that now sits proudly outside of Te Pipinga kākono mai rangiatea, te kurukaupa Māori o ngā motu there. And that's 35 metres, so that was definitely the biggest project and thing that I picked up last year in terms of my projects. So at the moment, I'm just kind of in that reset phase of looking for more funding, looking for more avenues to further my engagements with different schools or various schools. This year, I'm looking at hopefully engaging with Waitara High School for a mural project. And so just still at the moment, just floating around the mountain, trying to plant as many seeds as I can about toi Māori for the next generations. And that's pretty much been my goal for 2022. So you might not see me, but it's not to mean to say that I'm not active or I'm not out and about, constantly floating at different kaupapa, and it's just how I roll, really. You just roll with the punches and you carry on, you flow through to other kaupapa, you just help out however you can, wherever you can. So yeah, I pick up a lot of stuff like that, a lot of work, artwork, or commissions to do, but I think the main things that really excites me is working with tamariki on art, getting them to see and realise their own full potential. And that's basically what I align all of my kaupapa towards, is so people can understand a process and then they can use that process to help enlighten themselves, but also to help project their the best version of themselves.
Man. And did you have anyone that was, one of those big influences in the art space for you coming through that? Why you want to be such a role model in that space for rangatahi?
Yeah, I had very good artist mentors around me, such as the likes of Barry Te Whatu, a very prominent carver in stone, bone and wood. Hemi Sundrin, another prolific carver, also Tāmoko artist, very renowned historian for the northern iwis of Taranaki, or Taranaki Whānui. And then rangi kipa, just the style of perfection and really gravitating towards that perfection that he's found within his work and within his mediums that he plays with. So they were massive role models for me. Like most other rangatahi, there's so many decisions to make in life, and I suppose that if I had not had those three mentors in the times that I needed them most, who knows where I would be now. I don't think I'd be this far into it as a career, as a full-time artist and as a full-time toi Māori practitioner.
Awesome to hear, and there's some big names that you've mentioned along the way there. For whānau around Taranaki, you will know. For those who don't, wow, I think you will if you do a little bit more research. So, Cuz, can you explain for our listeners that aren't Māori, or maybe not even from New Zealand, what is toi Māori?
So toi Māori is what we know and refer to as the indigenous art form of New Zealand, or the indigenous art form of the Māori people. So toi Māori is art or anything creative or anything created by a hand of a Māori, or anything to do with the conceptual Māori whakaaro. That is toi Māori. Anything that you project into the world by a Māori person, made by Māori, that is toi Māori.
It extends beyond, what's the word? The Pākehā explanation for art. It extends beyond that. It's more or less fluid with who you are.
Yeah. Toi Māori is practical. Toi Māori is not art that just sits on the wall and has a value, and that's it, and the value increases. Toi Māori is about having practicality for those who are subjected to seeing that piece of work. So whether it's the messages, whether it's the powerful imagery used or motifs used in the piece, it's about utilizing that to actually help yourself in a practical way, to help get through your daily challenges, to help reevaluate your life, to help reevaluate tasks that might be mundane, or help change your perspective on how you might see life or death. So toi Māori, it's not just an art, it has a practical element that cannot be denied and that cannot be taken away. So my definition of toi Māori is it has to be made by a Māori, and it has to have that Māori whakaaro of helping someone else and helping enrich other people's lives. That is toi Māori. That's the practical essence of who we are as Māori and why we create for Māori.
So within toi Māori, there's that well-being aspect to it, and I think it goes beyond that therapy of creating something, putting out a product or a piece of mahi that you're proud of, but I think it also extends into the essence of the creation as opposed to the final product. So I think, and you can expand on this, but is there an essence of haora involved within the creation process as opposed to just putting out pieces of mahi?
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a whole nother a world that's just lying beneath the surface, I suppose, waiting for us as artists to be willing to dive deeper into internal affairs, or internal looking for internal resolutions to some of the questions that might be burning in the back of your mind, such as, who am I? What do I believe in? What do I stand for? And what do I die for? Those questions are burning questions that I find a lot of the time when I'm painting, those are the questions that really arise within myself. And through those questions, it helps get me to a place where visually I can interpretate who I am, where I'm going, what I'm doing, or what my purpose on this earth is, and who benefits from this journey. Because at the end of the day, it's not just me that benefits from this whole toi journey. It's the community. Everything that we do as practitioners has a practical use specifically for our community, to be able to use and utilize as tools to help strengthen and to help enhance their lives. So there's a whole lot of aspects that toi Māori can provide in terms of identity. More often than not, you just have to ask the question internally, and through continuously asking yourself these questions, will the answer show itself to you in the right moment? And I've found that for me personally, all of the answers have come whilst I've been being creative, and whilst I've created things for other people and dedicated my time for creating and establishing connections with others.
And that's such an important essence of, I think, most of what we do as Māori is the importance of connections, making and maintaining those relationships. What are some of the most important relationships that have not been beneficial to your mahi, but sort of helped you become who you are today?
For me personally, a lot of the relationships that I look at that are most key to me in terms of how I've gotten to this point in my career, I'd have to say family was definitely a big one. There were weeks, there were months, there were years where I wasn't making any money, where it almost was a pipeline dream, where I had to really master my own mind and not feeding into negativity and doubting myself. So family was definitely that beacon of hope and that beacon of strength that I relied on to help, to just help keep me positive, help keep me sane, help keep me believing in myself. And that's probably the biggest thing any relationship can ever give you, regardless of whether it's your tutors, regardless of whether it's your peers, regardless of whether it's your students, regardless of whether it's your family.
And building off of that, like, I think we've got a strong whānau, especially outside anyway. I've had Breezen on the podcast, Te Ope, Stephen's been on the podcast, now we've got you. And it just goes to show that, you know, can always call on our whānau to help us out whenever we need them to. And we've been through it. We've all been through it together, but we've always remained strong together. I think that's one of our biggest strengths, is that no matter what kind of falling out we've all had or will have, we'll always manage to sort of tie the knots and come back together again and patch up those works.
But just touching on that, I remember when I was at uni, Rawiri was full-time working, and when I'd come back from uni, he'd be the only one that would reach out and be like, "Come on, cuz, I got us a feed. We'll go down to the local diner and I'll get us a steak meal." And then I suppose when he was a student living down south, I'd return the favour by, I'll send him some countdown vouchers here and there, a couple of fuel save vouchers, just so he knows that, you know, I believe in him, and that the journey that he is facing, it might be hard now, but the rewards at the end of it are definitely going to be there for lifetime, and the lessons learned. And so, regardless of us not really speaking or keeping in close contact, you know, he always knew that I supported him regardless, and vice versa. And that's just the power of family. And it's just the little things, eh? It doesn't have to be nothing too major. You know, $50 food voucher goes a long way when you're only getting $50 a week.
Yeah. And it's now you know how to craft that extra $50 to make another couple more meals, or you stock the freezer instead of the pantry because you're like, oh yeah, now I can actually get a couple of minces. But no, it really is that important, whānau, that you maintain those relationships, and just because you move away and you don't get to keep in touch as often as you'd like to, doesn't mean that those relationships are lost forever. It's just you got to work a little bit harder to maintain them, and just make sure that when you do reconnect, don't act weird. No one's changed situations, and we may have grown a little bit, but at the end of the day, everyone's still who they used to be and who you thought they were and why they were your mates or your whānau in the beginning. So it's if you're lucky enough to have a whānau like we've got, it's on. Can I dive a little bit deeper into that, Tim? Because I know your whānau. I mean, I lived with you for a little bit there. So, how important was, your mum, your dad, on both sides, both whānau, how important was that to the growth of who you are now?
As a lot of you might not know, I was whānaued out at birth, but before I was born, my biological parents drew up a contract with my whānau parents, who at the time was my birth mother's cousin. So I was whānaued from Dawn and Dicky to Leone and Ruakere Hond. And yeah, they had a contract written up, and it wasn't until I was about 26, I think, I found that contract sitting next to my birth certificate at my uncle's house in like a closet, a wardrobe somewhere. It was real weird. But I suppose I'm really thankful that my biological parents did not fully adopt me legally. So I was in Te Ao Māori, we whāngai our tamariki, but it's not to say that we're giving them out to someone we don't know. We're still keeping that connection in the family. It's to keep those older connections between the generations alive. And I was the youngest of five. I was the youngest of five, so I was the fifth child. And my mother and father, birth mother and father at the time, understood that they financially couldn't look after me or couldn't afford to take care of a fifth kid. And so they decided to whāngai me out to Leone and Ruakere. They also wanted me to have what they never had, and to have what my siblings will have never had, which was an upbringing in Te Reo Māori, in a foundation here in Taranaki. The rest of my siblings and family all grew up in Auckland, Tāmaki. I'm pretty lucky, I suppose, to have known and always had my second whānau in my life, my birth whānau. I always knew that I was whāngai. And yeah, I just am super thankful that I know who I am. I'm not having to go on that bloody TV show, Missing Pieces. I don't mean to laugh, but I'm just super thankful that I don't have to experience that side of discovering who I am, because I see the pain, I see the mamai, I see everything that builds up in those kids and those parents as well, the shame, the regret, the mamai, the pain, everything. And so I'm just super humbled, super thankful that my parents went the route that they have. It can't always be easy. It can't have always been easy, especially when I was in public going, when both my sets of parents would be together, I'd be like, Mum, and they'll both look around, and then everyone in public would think, oh, this lesbian couple. But no, it was just me being cheeky and knowing that they're in public and that they'd both look around. So
you got that distinct voice too, so
yeah, that distinct voice. So they both look around, and then everyone's looking at them like lesbians.
No, it's been amazing, and like you said, Mato Ruakere and Whaleone, they're amazing people, and hella intense with the reo. I remember coming around here as a kid, and Mato asked us something, and I'm sitting at the table like, I'm just trying to eat my wheat fix. I'm all good.
Yeah, and it was like that. And like he'd forget that he comes back, like he'd forget that he just came back from a Tauta Whiri Hui for like, or conference for like 6 days, and they've just come up with 400 new words, and then he's coming home and we're just trying to eat our Weet-Bix. Back then, it wasn't really much of a focus for us, Te Reo Māori. And that's because Dad would always speak it to us, but he never ever forced us to have to speak Te Reo Māori within the home. As long as we understood it, he was okay with that. And I think that has a lot to do with why I suppose we naturally gravitate back towards Te Ao Māori. It's because it's not something that was forced on us as kids. It's something that naturally we will grow into and naturally come to discover ourselves. And I think naturally that's what we've done, and we've redefined our lives around being Māori. And that's what's, I think, winning, is that, you know, when growing up, we're always laughed at for being Māori. Now it's we're on. Being Māori is on. Like, the future ahead of us is just so bright. And I think that's why I put a lot of stress with my tauira, is for them to be able to see their own brilliance, or as to, on certain projects, why I have high standards, because I only see the full potential of what amazingness can come out of each and every one of my tauira, each and every one of my peers, everything, my whānau. Yeah.
I'll touch on what you were saying before, is that we were amongst the privileged few to be able to grow up around Te Ao Māori, but we're also amongst the privileged few that were allowed to not be as involved, or be as involved as we wanted to be throughout the entire process. Like Haoro was saying, we've never once been forced into it, but we've always been around tikanga. We've always known that. That's one thing that I've learned recently, catching up with a few of my mates down south who are Māori, who never got to grow up around it or have any exposure to it. So going through university is that's their crash course into, quote unquote, being Māori, which is a difficult place to be. For us, like, heck, it was going to the marae. It was sleeping at Auntie Sally's on the mattresses with Breeze and Chose and jamming the game till ungodly hours of the morning. It's the hanging around that hui when you just want to be staying home, when you just want to go back by the cousins, is going to all the whānau's places. There's no toys because it's just old people, that our aunties and uncles and all that. So it's like, it's those moments that you don't realize as a kid, that are actually so important when you get older. Is to those are the relationships that our parents and stuff were maintaining. The hui, that's the stuff that a lot of what you're into now is going to different hui. So we've always been involved and watching in the background. We just never had to be placed in the forefront. And now it's crack up because I now work for his father, learning te reo in this building.
Yeah. And funnily enough, we're both kind of raised in this house. This exact room was our escape route for when we need to sneak out at night.
How many times did that work?
No. Raoul refused to jump from the loft down to the first floor.
Or rather walk down those
or the stairs, yeah.
But see, the worst thing is that like Matua's office is the room just adjacent from here, which he was always working on that damn PhD. So I don't even think, even if I did jump down, we weren't getting out of here.
Nah. Our dad was way too quick, way too smart for us.
Which brings me into a story that we touched on when Tiope came on. Do you remember this one, eh? So for some of the viewers, if you haven't seen that episode, I recommend pause this here, go back and listen to Breezen's episode.
It's a goodie.
Listen to that side of the story, because me and Breezen left the house together, and then we heard how Breezen got back home. Well, he's the one that was left with our other cousin, and they got up to who knows what. So let's find out this side of the story.
So after Rowdy and Breezen had left to go to some party, Me and Uriah were freaking out. So this is for my 15th day.
Yeah, it was something.
14th,
Yeah,
14th or 15th.
it was like the first
birthday.
time we're allowed to drink here.
Yeah, and it was only like 3 or 4 each, and then so we were already given like quite a nice little length of rope, and we just pulled the shit out of that, and we got the whole yard of rope. So so we're allowed to drink. Had a couple in the back room, sweet as, and so Rowdy takes off to a party. Breezen, not long after, goes to follow him to tell him to turn around and come back. And so me and Uriah for half an hour sitting there for about half an hour to an hour thinking, nah, they're going to get in trouble. They're going to get us caught. They're going to get us caught. And so what me and Uriah done, thought, oh, well, fuck it. What we'll do is we'll jump on the scooter. We'll jump on the motorized scooter. It would have been like a 250cc Suzuki Swift, orange, bright orange. We'll jump on the scooter and we'll go down the foreshore and we'll see if we can find them and tell them to turn around. And so we ended up going out, and it's I forgot that it was cold because we were drinking. There was no wind. But then once you got down to the foreshore on the scooter going 50 kilometers on the walkway, I forgot I was in a singlet and I was just like, it's cold. And then there's my cousin who's big ass sitting behind me, like tucking his head in behind my head going, you all right, my cousin? Do you see them yet? Do you see them yet, cousin? And yeah, so anyway, we get right up to, I think the party was at Gills High.
Yeah, on the other side of town.
Right on the other side of town. And so we get to Gills High, me and my cousin on the scooter, and no helmets, no protective gear, nothing. And then we get there, couldn't find the party. And then so we decide to turn around and go home, come home along the foreshore. And then when we got home, Rawiri was nowhere to be seen. Breezen was somehow home. He beat us home. Some fucking hell. He beat us home. And
my OP.
Yeah, he beat us home. Mum and Dad were pissed off at me and Uriah. Got the scooter taken off us, etc., etc. And why did you leave your cousin Breezen behind? Only he was the only one with the amount of logic to stay behind. He had respect for his auntie, not you little shits. And then we had to sit there the next morning listening to, our boy. You didn't want to tell them you came out with us too, asshole.
Bro, because they got me. Because everyone was like, gee, we come back and he's sitting there happy ass.
Yeah.
Didn't get in trouble. But on the podcast that Breezen's on, he was like, yeah, because I pretty much just got through the door. Mato Rukere opens the door and goes, oh, where's the others? He's like, oh, no, I think they just went to the bathroom. I don't know. I've just been sitting here. I was like, gee, you cracked it out. And that's why he'll always be remembered as her favourite.
Yeah. He got rewarded too for not going out. He actually got rewarded from my mum for not going out. And here we are. We got rewarded with jobs. Didn't really know how that worked out for us. But I think it wasn't until a couple of years ago that Mum actually, I think we actually told her.
Yeah, it was on your 21st.
Yeah, my 21st. Well, we actually told Mum, like, hey, I think she brought it up.
Yeah.
She brought it up at my 21st at a party, and I was like, don't even bring that story up.
Nah.
You're missing the facts.
Yeah, because didn't she try to catch us for that other one time? Mato caught, I hid in the shower, you hid in the pantry underneath the pots up. So she pulled up that story, and I was like, hey, and you were like, yeah, that's not even the worst. And I was like, yeah, him. We just point to Breezen.
That's right.
And then she's like, no, not my OP.
Breezen.
You bastard. You got us good, eh?
He was just quick.
You got us good, cuss.
The Black Flash, Night Fury, that fella. Straight up as a teenager, he's just the most like no facials, no like expression, but just the fastest fella. You look around and he's gone. He's already gone. That's our cousin Breezen. That's just how he was. And then Chosen. So while we got Breezen, who's just not super slow, but like super. What's a good way of describing Breezen?
It's pretty agile.
Like he wasn't slow. He just would always the look on his face. He'd always be reading the room. He'd always be calculating everything. So he'd always look like.
Oh, he's quite reserved. Quite reserved at times.
But then, like at the same breath, like bang, gone. So like, yeah, he was a funny one, old Breezen. Or like, whenever we'd go over, or he'd come over to our house, we'd introduce him to a new game on the PS2 or Xbox, and like he hasn't played it before. So we'll ask him, "Have you played this?" Nah. And then we were like, yes, finally a game we might be able to beat him on. And then like we'll be jamming, and then like we'll be winning, and then he'll just get serious, like, nah, I got you now. And then just yeah. And it just pull out the most tin ass victories ever. Like never will you ever see a tin ass victory like a Breezen one, especially on the game. Because like, don't matter how many hours or how many times you've clocked the game, you'll never clock Breezen or Chosen. Or if you beat Breezen, you'll never beat Chosen, his older brother. If you beat Breezen and Chosen, you're going to get wasted by Uncle Dallas. So like, it was like games was never fun with them. Like games on Xbox, they were just too good. They were just way too good.
They're too competitive at everything, but like not competitive to be competitive to just win at everything. No, like there was just no
natural
talent.
Talent.
Shit.
Just natural instincts, natural talent. Just every game. Rugby was the worst to play with them. Yeah. UFC, the worst. They just
trash. Run it back now.
Yeah. But anyway, that was then. Things are a lot different now.
Hey, run us up in duos, man.
Yeah.
Run us up in duos.
Come around here, play that COD Mobile, we'll catch you.
No, he's a parfa now, so he's a busy man. He's no time for games, he reckons. But Mano, see, that's the importance of having those strong relationships throughout your entire life, because you can reflect on moments like that, go through getting an ass whooping, getting a growling, getting chores for like months. The ones that get me though out is cleaning this house when the cleaner's coming the next day. Bro, up to.
Yeah. Mum didn't have a shortage of lists of jobs for us to do, here.
Or that firewater. We're supposed to go to the movies.
Yeah, we missed. So Mum brought us tickets to the movies, and we just had one job, and that was to stack like 3 or 4 cubes of firewood, and so that was our job, and our payment was our money, our tickets for the movies, and our kai money. So we thought, we'll start this at 9, and it just took fucking ages. So come 9:15, we were like, fuck this, what we're going to do, our movie's at 11:30, we're just going to sit out here and kill time until our movie starts, and just be like, nah, you've got to take us to the movies now. And well, that didn't work with Dad. It backfired. He said, "Oh well, you're missing your movie." So we stacked the wood and didn't even get to go to the movies.
It sucked, man.
Took us the whole bloody day.
There was heaps of wood too.
4 cubes.
Ah.
Not just your 2, not 1 trailer, but 2.
Levi's fault, I blame him.
Yeah, and then we had a third cousin that'd always ring his mum on the day that my mum would tell us we had jobs to do, or every time we had to clean up the house. Oh, auntie, mum's coming to pick me up. I already rang her. And like he's already just eaten bacon and eggs on toast, and it's just, oh, auntie. Mum's picking me up now.
Wow, yeah, what a guy, eh? But I will give you one credit. She always gave us a mean feed on cleanup day. So can't really complain. But still, I hated those bathrooms there.
Yeah, we always got stuck on toilets, vacuuming, everything.
But we had a great childhood though. Like far privileged days. We had heaps. Beach just down the road. We had town just that way. They don't even know where I'm pointing.
Yeah, we had it.
But no, we had a special childhood. It was amazing, and we still have those amazing bonds today. And it's cool seeing all the kids now coming through, having those similar bonds getting shared around as well. It's cool seeing them the whānau grow a little bit bigger now, especially with Chosen's 2, Reasons 1 and 1 on the way. Hamid's
Baby.
Stephen, his baby, Uriah, his baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Levi, his baby.
Levi. So all the cousins now, that's growing. Modu next.
Either him or you. No pressure.
No pressure. Unwanted. But let's dive into the part of the show, my cuz, where these are the more scripted questions. These are what I ask every week. So the first one is, if you could go back to, how far back should we go? If you could go back and talk to, let's go 21-year-old Haoro. What piece of advice would you say to 21-year-old Haoro if you could?
It'll probably be not to beat yourself up for your mistakes. Remember that those mistakes are there to help teach you an important lesson. And that not to be caught up on how much mistakes you've made, or how you feel like you're in the same cycle, repeating the same behaviors. It all pays off in the end. I'm not here saying you finally learnt the lesson. I'm just saying that try not to beat yourself up too hardly. We've done some horrific things, but the best is yet to come, and all of the dues that we owe people all going to get paid out in the years to come. So yeah, don't beat yourself up too hard.
That's some mean advice. It's a lot of growth in those words, my cuz. And I know the 21-year-old man that you were, and the man sitting next to me today, definitely not the same person, but you were definitely shaped by that person. And cuz, I love that and appreciate that about you, is that you've been able to overcome all of the animosity that you've had in your life. And I'm proud of the man you are today, my cuz. Because you fellas don't know his full history, and it's not that bad. But coming through high school, we're always assholes. I mean, that's half the reason why I lived with him for a bit. So it's another story for another time. But to see where the cuz is now, and from a bank that struggled to give us a bank card to now having his artwork on it, or a light festival we used to go to as kids, now showcasing his art to the world. So, whānau, this fella is on to some amazing things. I will link a lot of his stuff down below for those interested to find out more about the cuz and about what he's up to around the world, really, because you're not just localized here to Taranaki. This is where you are most prominent and work out of, but he's definitely not limited to Taranaki. The ceiling is not here. The ceiling is past the atmosphere. So I love that for you, my cuz, to see that growth and to hear that growth in you. That's on. So I'll flip it now, and you're looking through that camera, and you look back on this video in 5 to 10 years. What is something you'd like to say to yourself or ask yourself in the future when you're looking back on this video?
I think it would be, does the world still need you? That will probably be it. Or does the world still need you in the role that I'm in at the moment? which is being an art practitioner, or does the world need me in another light? Does it need me in another role? What does my community need? What does my family need to grow into the future? And when I talk about family, I'm not meaning my family in this generation. I'm meaning my family in the generations to come. How can I help represent them in this time, or how can I best set this up for them? And did I do everything that I could to ensure that you've got every tool around you to see the people that you love succeed?
I like that. So that's what you're putting in place at the moment, just trying to not make yourself obsolete, but work yourself to a position where you're not needed in those roles anymore.
It's about showcasing what the platform could look like to people and what the role could look like, and then being able to offload it to someone else who's in that position, like I was in that space, to be able to grow into that role. So it's just another a stepping stone for others to follow, not into my footsteps, but to follow a path that they wholeheartedly believe in.
No, I read that. So you're not essentially creating a role for others to fill, you're just smoothing or mowing the grass for others to walk on and pave it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly what you said. I'm just laying the foundations for others to be able to come in and elevate that new platform to another level, to take the foundations that I've given and elevate it to a whole nother realm, and that's the role. So I don't see myself sitting in this developer stage for too long, maybe another 10 to 15 years. Until I actually start to see some of these seeds starting to produce fruits. But that's a journey that I'm willing to, and that's a chapter that I'm willing to go down in terms of for the betterment of our art form, for the betterment of our people, but also to help preserve and evolve our art form going into the future.
I mean, I love that. That's on. And I was just thinking too, and you can be, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, in my opinion, on succession is that succession shouldn't be to have someone take your place. It should be that your place is no longer needed. Is that it's created something else? Because I think with people who become so fixated on succession, you end up in situations like Russia and whatnot, where it's about I need to control the situation, whether it be in a workspace or whether it be in a whānau space. When you're coming through, you shouldn't be about control. It should be about bringing everyone else up so they can surpass the levels that you were once at. I think that's what succession is truly about, not just replacing someone with someone new.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right there, cousin. Absolutely right there.
And this is the last part of the three-part question that's sort of premeditated in this podcast. And the whānau at home that are regular listeners, they know that this is where I pull out my shoebox. I've got this thing called the Dream Deposit Box. It used to be called the Dream Box, but that was because I didn't have a dream jar, and people have told me over summer they don't really like a thing called the Dream Box. So it's the Dream Deposit Box. And in this box, I've filled it with heaps of people's dreams. We've had people saying they want to just reach 30. That's their dream, is to reach 30. Others have said they just want to see their kids grow old. Some, I mean me, have gone, because I didn't know what I wanted to put in there. I didn't know how this was going to be. So I put in, my first dream was to own a McLaren. But recently I've put in there, I'd like to write a book one day, and things like that. So what do you think you'd like to achieve? What's a dream of yours that we can put in this dream box? I know whānau that are watching this, they're like, where's this box? Well, I'll write it down when I get home and I'll place it in there. But for the viewers, nothing changes. For the listeners, sorry, nothing changes for you.
I suppose for me, my dream is for every single person in this world to realize their full potential, to manifest nothing but love and positivity in their lives, and to circulate just goodwill to all mankind. My one of my other big goals is for rangatahi to realize their own potential, to realize their own amazingness that they carry with them, and to not be disheartened by this world. She's a pretty dark and dangerous world out there. Just know that there is support there, regardless of who it might be. It might not be the person that we want to be there to support us, but hey, we can't stick our noses up at that. Support is support, regardless of where it comes from or what it looks like. And just know you're amazing, and just know that you're loved and that you're beautiful. And that's all I could. That's if every rangatahi I ever come across has those qualities or believes in themselves or sees those attributes within themselves, then my dreams will pretty much will come true. Because what that means is that I'm engaging with rangatahi who are open-minded to picking up a paintbrush or picking up a chisel, picking up a tea towel, picking up the whai kōrero on the pai, and being that enlightened and that in tune with your environment, that it just becomes natural to be positive, to believe in yourself, and to just be amazing. That's my dream.
Yeah, that's a beautiful dream. So it's amongst the top tier. Not that I'm ranking people's dreams on the show, but that's up there because I love that. That's a beautiful dream, and I too hope that one day that can be achieved, and I hope you see it in your lifetime. And for some of the rangatahi out there that feel like they're not getting a good go of it right now, just hang on. Just trust me, it does get better. It doesn't rain forever, and eventually you'll see the rainbow start to form. And once you get on the other side, sky's the limit. You've been through hell already, so you know what it feels like. So it can only get better. Just got to give it a little bit of time. I know it feels that it's crushing and you just want to give up, but keep pushing. You can get there. Just takes a little time. You just have to be patient with yourself. Don't worry about too much about the other people, but be patient with yourself. Time is on your side. Time is on your side. So don't worry, whānau. You will get there and you will achieve great things. You stand on the shoulders of giants. And you've got nothing left to prove. You just go out there and do it. Have fun along the way. That's all you can really do. Just have some fun along the way. Because we ain't got forever. We've got long enough.
And don't be afraid to fail. Failure has been the biggest tool for me to getting to where I am now. I'm not going to go into detail about my failures, or I'm not going to start counting them up. But just know that in my time, when I was growing up, there were a lot of mistakes, a lot of lessons that helped grow me and build me to where I am now. And I think had I not had experienced those mistakes at such a young age, then I'll be fucked if I was doing them now.
Yeah.
So at a young age, I did learn. It took a lot longer. Some of the lessons registered, but I learned.
You're not the only one.
Yeah, I learned. Yeah, and now coming up to 3 years sober from alcohol. So, yeah, it's possible. It's all possible.
It is. Just got to give it time and let it work for you. Stop working against it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's it. And once you make that conscious shift to be more than what you are or what you were when you woke up that day and every day, that's the point where your life's going to start turning around and start changing. And you're going to start feeling and noticing your own internal wealth and your internal abundance of energy just grow.
Hard out. So take these lessons, Whānau. There's been a lot in this. We've been on a bit of a roller coaster of emotions here. We've hit some highs and we've hit some lows, but at the end of the day, it's still been a hell of a journey. And speaking of the highs and lows, Breezen introduced this new segment. Well, it's not new anymore. It's pretty old now. I gotta stop saying new. But it's a segment on the show. It's your rock and your rose, your highs and your lows. So what's been your highs and lows of the past? Let's go with, because it's still the first month of the year. Let's go with last year. What was your highs and lows?
I think for me, my high was probably having over 200 students last year. Most of them, actually all of them, being secondary school kids, school kids. All of them being school kids. So about over 200 students. That was very humbling for me to realise not how much of a following I'm amassing, but how many people need this in their lives at the moment, and how crucial this journey that I'm on is for everyone else, or how relevant it is for our next generation. That's probably the one of the highs, but also Māori Language Week, unveiling the ATM for TSB Bank. That was pretty cool. And then Matariki, the first year that us as a country celebrated Matariki last year, and so by celebrating it, I unveiled like a 5-6 meter waharua called Te Whatawhata Ārangi, and it glows in the dark, and it's got lights. But that was in commemoration for the first recognition of Matariki being a public holiday here in New Zealand. So yeah, I think just those three things alone have a lot of weight, not for now, but for the future generations to come, and looking at, well, where did the foundations come from, or where did the surge of this movement come from? And that's going to be one of the things that people are going to look back in the future as to saying, well, this was probably one of the recorded times when New Zealand really made that shift into a cultural society, a culturally accepting society, I suppose you call it. And so it's massive. And understanding the history as to what we're actually contributing back towards, that's probably the most beneficial high that I can get, is the potential for the future. The lowest, one of my other goals, my big goal that I hit last year, it was a goal that I've had since I was 18. So when I was at university, I said to myself, "Oh, look, I'm gonna make it as a painter, regardless of what happens, what's thrown at me. I'm gonna make it, and I'm gonna prove all my teachers wrong. I'm gonna prove all my naysayers wrong. I'm gonna prove them all wrong. I'm gonna make it." And I said to myself, "Well, how do I know that I've made it?" And I said, "Well, the moment that I sell a painting worth $10,000 or more, that's when I know that I've made it and I've established myself in the art world." So I hit that milestone last year. I sold a painting for $15K. And so for me, it wasn't about the monetary value. It was about the fact that I held on to this dream and I believed in myself. And it took me 10 years, 10 bloody years. But I got it. I hit that milestone that I wanted. And it wasn't about the monetary value of what my art's going for. It was more so about how I can then sell it at that market and then be able to sustain myself within the community, within doing community projects. So that's where kind of earning that amount of money for a piece. So I calculated when I was 18, I just create one of those a month. try sell one a month, and that's 120k a year, which means that it's comfortable enough to live off, save, but also be able to focus back in on just running projects for my community. Because at the end of the day, those are the seeds that I want to sow into the earth.
Yeah.
In terms of lows, there wasn't too many. I think my biggest low was I was involved in a kaupapa last year, and due to conflict within other members of that organisation, so I ended up walking away, and I know a few others did as well, based on the conflict within this organisation. So I think my biggest low was just seeing a kaupapa with so much potential and so much potential for our rangatahi, for our community, and to see it kind of topple over was just really sad, especially knowing how much hard work and energy went into getting that kaupapa off the ground and getting it sustainable. I think that was probably the saddest thing last year. Oh, actually, we are one of the saddest things. The other one would probably be the amount of tangihanga that we're now going to. It's sad, really. It's sad just how many of our own whānau aren't really looking after themselves, their hauora, and as a result, tangis are almost every fortnight now, or were last year. That's a pretty hard pill to swallow for 2022, I must admit. But nevertheless, if you're watching this, we made it. We made it through another challenging year, I suppose. But yeah, I think that would be those would be my highs and lows on this journey. I'd say, Haori.
And it's been a hell of a journey, and it's not over yet. There's still plenty more to go. There's a lot to unpack out of that. You've gone through a lot of lows. Obviously, tangihanga is the lowest of lows anyone could ever go through, really, eh? And wish that upon no one. But the highs of last year, quite a successful year, and I think it was the first time in a long time I've been able to attend some of these successes. I'll post up some of the photos as he's listing them off. You'll have to send me the one of the TSB Bank though.
Yep.
But I'll put them up on the reels and in this podcast here on YouTube. But yeah, to be able to witness that journey firsthand has been amazing, my cuz. It's like you say, it's been 10 years to reach your goal that you set at 18. But even before then, overcoming all of that to get to where you are now,
It's very humbling, eh?
Yeah.
It's very humbling. I don't really like to talk about myself or like what I'm doing or the journey. So I hate for people to think that I enjoy the limelight or I'm headstrong and just full of myself. It can be quite challenging talking about myself or talking about my work in a way where I try to be neutral about it without talking myself up.
We all get there though. We all get there. It's not. I don't think it's talking yourself up. I think every guest that comes on the show has worth. Everyone has worth, and it's always great to celebrate everyone's worth. I don't care if you're an established painter, as they call you in the Baga world, an artist, or if you're a PhD student, or if you've finished a PhD, if you haven't done a PhD and you just a father. I don't care what your credentials are in life, but everyone deserves to be celebrated. And everyone that comes on the show definitely has a lot of worth that needs to be appreciated And I'm, like I tell most people, that's the whole reason I create this podcast, is so that I can learn from other people how they've lived and how they've overcome challenges. Because, even though we've grown up together and I've been alongside you, I've not been able to witness your entire journey, and to hear some of the things that I've heard today, you can kind of put the pieces together that have been missing. You're like, right. So that's where he's gone, and it's so cool. And like I say, I can only live one lifetime, but I can learn from 1,000. So that's why I invite so many people on here from all walks of life to be celebrated, be appreciated, and be able to tell your story, because we don't have forever. And I know, our grandparents never had this medium. And so we're now pretty much, what is it, enshrined within this channel. We will be in the metaverse one day. But now, is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap up here, my cuz? And I just want to say thank you again so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I know some of the whānau around the country and around the world are watching. Prison will be here. Uriah and Auntie Dale and Joel, they watch often. So shout out to our coastie whānau there over in Gold Coast and Brizzy. And then obviously whānau around Waitara and Taranaki will be watching as well.
Yeah. Final words. Don't be afraid to try, and believe in yourself wholeheartedly, and don't kawe whakaiti tētahi atu. Don't belittle anyone. Just be honest to who you are. Don't worry about others. Just be honest to who you are. And the people who you want in your life, they will know and they will see the real you protruding out of this chaotic world. And yeah, just believe in yourself.
I mean, what a great way to close up the show. It's a great way to close up the show. So again, thank you so much for being here, my cuz. Really appreciate it. Love you so much, my cuzzy.
Yeah, love you too, my cuz.
Appreciate it. So, whānau, thank you for listening, watching on whatever platform you're watching on. Welcome back to the new year. 2023, we've got this, baby. 99 Dreams. Māori ora. Take care.